Well, if you guys don't know who I am, I'm Wayne Baker. Thank you all for coming out. This is, it's mind-boggling for me. It's absolutely beautiful. It's like, thank you. I can't express my thanks enough. So, and we pray that Canada thanks you all too. So, I'd like to share a couple of stories. One is more of a macro story, and the other's a micro story. Now this is set in just prior to the Second World War and then a little bit later into the war. Just before the fire, the things like, I believe it was just between when England had declared war on Germany and things started getting ugly. I think Hitler approached Churchill and asked if he would capitulate. And Churchill sweated over that. Churchill was absolutely torn because he knew the cost. He knew what was involved with not capitulating. And he eventually ended up on the subway in London. And he was just riding around on the subway over and over and over and talking to people. And everyone, like he'd say, look, we can capitulate. We won't suffer loss of life. We'll be under the German control, but we will, hopefully we'll fare through this better. But it's going to cost us our freedom. And everyone to absolutely, didn't matter the age or anything. They all said our freedom is most important. We need to fight. And so at that point, I think it was shortly after that, he went to the. It was his famous speech, I think, where he says, I can't promise you anything other than blood, sweat, and tears. That's it. That's all I can promise. Fast forward about 9 months, I think. Dunkirk was fought. France had fallen. The British Expeditionary Force had basically been surrounded on Dunkirk. One of the things that a retreating army will do is they will employ sacrificial troops to hold off the enemy as long as they can. And my grandfather, I call him my grandfather, my maternal grandfather passed when I was an infant, and my grandmother remarried, and this chap, his name was George, he was more my grandfather. I knew him as my grandfather, so. He found himself as one of these sacrificial troops trying to hold off the enemy as long as he could. And he told me that they were there. It's sort of it isn't an officer's perspective. It's a soldier's perspective. And he says, at one point the officers come down and said it's every man for himself. And you could tell that he was petrified, absolutely petrified. He didn't have, he probably didn't remember, but he said he found himself holed up in the back of a bar. And I envisioned like a little warehouse full of boxes, and he'd made himself a little fort in this warehouse and hiding out there. And I think the bar owner realized that he was there and went to report him to the German authorities. And there was a scuffle. And he comes out with this knife that's about probably a foot long. And he says, this knife killed a man. This knife, it saved my life. It was between me and another man. That man actually had a family, but so did I. And I had to kill him in order to survive. That haunted him right through to the day he died. But I gotta wait for this. He was discovered. The Germans found him. I envisioned him being on a coastal, like he was in a coastal village. I envisioned it having a pier going out into the water. And he went running down the street, down this pier. The Germans were shooting at him at the time, Fortunately, they missed him. He dove into the water and he started swimming. He didn't know where he was going. He's out, you know, he's swimming out into the English Channel. And the Germans are shooting at him, so every time he heard gunshots, he'd dive under the water, and he just kept going, kept going, kept going. There was a British cruiser going up and down the coastline, and those gunshots saved his life, because they heard the gunshots, and they waited off the coast until he got there. They knew something was going on, and they were going to wait and save him. That's the kind of sacrifice my grandparents' generation made for my freedom. And here we think that a bug, a virus, should be justifiable to lose our freedom over. No way, not on my watch. What kind of legacy? My grandparents left that sacrifice like that to leave an absolutely phenomenal legacy for me to live in. And what kind of legacy are we leaving for our kids and our grandkids? It's absolutely scary. And I do not want to see that happen, and I'm going to do everything I can to stop it from happening. And the least we can do is sacrifice, you know, our potential safety. I mean, how selfish can we be? I mean, how selfish? And I'm not talking. I'm not talking to you specifically. I'm just saying we've allowed this to happen as a country. We've allowed ourselves to go down this cesspool, and we're sliding into communism and totalitarianism and absolute control over our lives. Not on my watch. Not if I can help it. And just please spread the word. Please spread the word. So thank you.